Hello, everyone. I'm Vashi V, and joining me today is.
Gokai Platinum from Henshin Sunrise.
I don't getcha or just getcha from the I don't get it channel.
Uh, I don't know if her mic is working, but Pixie is also here. Also, hi, I'm Rai.
And I'm Zero.
Welcome to Kamen Rider Zero-One, Episode 5. Welcome to Getcha, who is joining us for this podcast. Getcha,
Hello.
would you like to give like a brief idea of your history with Kamen Rider?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I had a typical introduction into Tokusatsu in general, just going straight from Power Rangers to Super Sentai to Kamen Rider, all that. Um, and to watch it weekly and found out how to watch it weekly. Of course, it was fucking Kiss Asian, but around Kamen Rider Xaid. This is actually Zero-One's the first Kamen Rider that I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna torrent this whole thing because I don't want to deal with the Kiss Asians bullshit. but yeah, I've been watching since then. Ever since I've backtracked, I've gotten a chance to watch O's. Recently finished Ryuki, and a couple other series like Deno have been scattered around the place. Also, I like Showa a lot. I don't know. That's my main story, I guess.
So, uh, Izo is explaining to Arto the process for making a Humagear. And in the lab that they're in, I noticed that in the background there's the big machine that I possibly actually makes the Humagear themselves. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just looking at the set and going, is this repurposed from the build basement?
That is exactly what I thought too. Like, I'm actually, I've kind of almost like it always shocked me the first time, but now that you bring it up again, like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
I mean, it's possible. I don't necessarily. They probably have some like sound stage that they just keep switching around different projects to. So
Like,
It's very common too for places, especially in Japan, to reuse the same scene panels, the same set. A lot, as we well know, they often will just repaint something and call it a new weapon when it's one that we have seen many times over.
thank
yeah,
you, Kamen Rider Brain, for pointing that out.
there's also like examples in the fact that there's those couple episodes of uh Blade that take place in the restaurant that later the Dipper restaurant in Kamen Rider Deno. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and isn't there the Lupat Cafe also the cafe from Build?
oh, that's not the Lupa Cafe's um
Loop-Pad is
actually
like very different.
Oh well, I'm not that like I'm not that detail oriented, so y'all are probably right. Like, I don't take in the whole picture and all of its details. I just hyper focus on really tiny ones.
oh yeah, that's fair. I might be wrong about this actually, but I think the cafe from someone told me once.
Yeah,
I
I
just
can
like
share
linked it to a
everybody
bunch
on
of
my end just fine.
All
I
right.
just like linked it to a bunch of places. Are we gonna need a new link?
Oh no.
I
It
mean,
will YouTube will basically like
just
keep going
connected.
and just like when the stream is done, it'll cut out the dead air.
Yeah,
So we should be back now.
I was saying earlier, just because Platinum made a point about the Build Cafe. Completely random point, but someone told me who's been working on doing a documentary actually in Japan and has been going around to the different places with the different people who work there, that the place where they shot the cafe and Build next to a bar that is owned by one of the people who did the VFX for Build, which is really weird.
What a
If true.
coincidence.
You mean Justin, the next decade?
Yeah, Dustin. Dustin.
It's Dustin. Fuck, I thought it was Justin for some reason. He's like at the next decade. I don't know if it's spelled weird or anything, but yeah.
Told me that, so if that's completely wrong, it's either my bad memory or you can blame him.
I trust him. He's a homie.
Yeah, I do too. He's cool.
So,
But also, there is the lovely rooftops that appear in every Kamen Rider and the scene next to the river.
Oh, also the one. I guess we're just talking about like different locations that get reused. I noticed there's a part where Kamen Rider not Tiger, he jumps off a bridge in order to get away from Asakura. Oja lands in the middle of this shallowed water bridge and walks over, and it's this really tense, dark moment. And I'm like, wait a second. This is the bridge that Gintaro jumped off of at the first episode of Forza to get the love letter.
And then the, ever lovely hill.
there's that stadium.
Oh god, the
and-
Eternal Stadium.
And that one quarry.
That like every Sentai and Rider attack happens at. Yeah, that stadium's great. Also because like you can make it look like so many different locations. Like I think like a third of the fights in 5 happen at that fucking stadium because you can just shoot it from a different angle. It's different. Also
They made the
we have,
stadium look like it was a
4
college.
people stream with 2 commenters, Dry Chase and Dream Bomb and Macross. So thanks, people.
Macross? Wait, are you
Holy
talking
shit,
about
it's Dream Bomb Satsu. I can't believe he fucking showed up to our little podcast here. How you doing? How you doing, Dream Bomb Satsu? How you doing, Dry Chase? Good to see y'all here.
Are you doing Macross?
Okay. So, what's his name? Choichiro Ishizumi is a mangaka that has created a popular shonen series. And he has amassed a wealth to the point where he now employs Humagear, who do all the drawing for him because they can draw like lines perfectly. But he's also reached a point where he pretty much just lets the editors decide the story because they know what draws in readers and such. So if Choichiro doesn't do the artwork nor write the story, and it doesn't look like he does any kind of storyboarding either, can he really say that he's making a series?
I mean, you can kind of say that it's his IP, that he's the creator, but like, nah, he's not fucking making anything. Yeah, he's just fucking sitting there, and I do think that it's interesting that they brought up the idea of AI-generated content because we have algorithms doing a lot of the work in animation today. We'd use algorithms to do the tween frames, and we use algorithms to do CG animation as well. So we're not at the point really where AIs are completely drawing their own illustrations, but we could get there. That's actually believable.
And also just in general, the whole I like. I felt like it was kind of obviously for being one of those types of episodes, it did it a little shallowly. I liked the sort of questions it was bringing out about the struggle between the creator, their work, and their passion, and uh, whether efficiency and passion can truly exist in one or if one has to be substituted for the other in order to sell. And it was really it was really nice the type of messaging they had. Sort of like, especially what Aruto was saying about like you have to do it. These are the stories that inspire the next generation. Because I feel like that sort of reflected on some of the puts that some of the writers on Kamen Rider itself have. I've heard, obviously it's a job to them, but I've heard a couple stories about people on Tokusatsu feeling almost indebted to the children of Japan, especially after such, especially like with Forze in 2011 after the Tohoku crisis, them working with him to be friendly and uh, build up this character of togetherness. That's sort of the thing I like, that they're kind of like implementing their own ideologies on their own show into the current show, sort of bringing that question up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pixie?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you can often see happening in any art-centered world, be it manga, painting, digital content creation. You often run into this problem where the creators will just lose their passion because nobody cares for, as R2 pointed out, the roughness that makes it unique and valuable and inspiring. Because the publishers want it right now, right then. We got to get this out to the fans so it sells, and just push for quantity over quality.
Like it also goes into the fact of this would be like if this were we had the technology for all of this right now, this would be an easy out for especially mangaka because a lot of them are pushing out stuff that has to be out every week, and most of them are very small productions with the main creator and a handful of assistants doing this every week and trying to continue the story week in week out, having it done on time, having it look right. So the idea, at least to start with, of hey, if we have an AI who can do this, it would take a lot of the burden off of us, and it would make it because a lot of mangaka have described the world of being a mangaka as basically hell with the demand and pressure that are put on them. So to have this outlet of assistance to be at least starting out to be an actual assistance, it makes sense. And then to have that be a progressional thing to, well, screw it, they can do it all for me. It's a very logical path that could be taken, and I actually enjoy the fact that this is covering that aspect of it. Because yeah, it's like I'll be the first one to admit, if I could find a robot to do my job and I can still get paid, yeah, there's a robot doing my job.
Yeah, definitely. But oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
If I may jump back in here, I just wanted to point out a prime example of this that is going on right now in our world. Is this for those of us who grew up in the early 90s? We grew up with the hand-drawn animations, and you can see now, since we now have CG, we have the algorithms, hand-drawn's gone away. It's all created on CG platforms and computerized animation platforms. So you can even see that today with the limited technology and AI programs that we have now. And I like that they pointed that out in this episode that with AI, we could, as some people have argued already in our world, we can essentially become passionless, do nothing, that just let our computers do everything for us.
Zero.
No, I mean, Platinum, did you want to say something?
I was just
No?
gonna let you cover it, basically. I was just gonna say I agree.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, very interesting arguments. Oh, fuck. We could be here for a while if I get into this, so I won't. Um, but basically, like, yeah, real life Shonen Jump mangaka. Well, there's a couple problems with this being reality because, like, one, yeah, fucking drawing manga weekly is a pain in the ass, but most mangaka don't have assistants. um, like, until you, like, one of the rich ones, like, you don't really get that. Um, at which point, like, then you get like all the pressure of like shit. Now you got to do it every week, and then it turns into right, um, right. So which is like fuck it. Like I'm not gonna give up control, but I'm pretty much have no ideas of how this is gonna go, and this is killing me to draw. So I'm gonna just simplify this as much as I can, even with and then fucking hell, and the story was shit. But that being also said, is like, yeah, is it still your creation if everybody else is pretty much doing all the other shit and you're just doing what the editors want? That's an interesting point. Here's why they can never argue it, is because what's Toei's biggest moneymaker? Dragon Ball. Who makes Dragon Ball? Toriyama. Toriyama did not make the new Dragon Ball, right? He just gave the notes, and then Toyotaro made the manga, and Toei made the anime, and that's why they diverge at points. So like the thing is like yeah, that could be a really interesting episode and really interesting point. Like Toei being Toei will never argue this point because literally their biggest cash cow is just this, you know, in real life. Um, so they're never gonna come down on the. Maybe it's a negative, you know. They're never gonna say that. That being said, like yeah, I do agree. This episode was very basic because it had lots of ideas it could have. How should I? Like if I had to say anything about this episode, this is like the benchmark episode. This is just like decent, like
Like
the
this is where things
definition
get
of a
super
decent.
standardized.
Yeah, no, this is like the definition of like somebody says, "All right, you have to throw out a Kamen Rider episode. Go." This is one of those, right? Like, all right, monster attack creator or person ties back into your theme. That person has given up on whatever. They're gonna meet the writer, and by the end, they're suddenly when they see the monster battle, they're just gonna whatever they had blocking them out of their, and they're back to being a normal human being. It's like, what the fuck happened to all the explanation, right? Like it's like this is like bad episodes of Wizard, where it's like, okay, you're the gate, right?
Hmm.
So there should be a whole story about why you're the target and what's going on with you. But the lazy episodes of Wizard are, oh, your life's in danger. Wizard's gonna save your life. You know, the plot goes on, and that's sort of what this is, where it's like, all right, um, I make robots. You bought a robot. You're a famous artist, dude. You don't want to draw anymore. Here, let me fucking tell you you should draw. Oh, you're not gonna draw? Okay, I'm gonna get into a writer fight and then you're gonna start drawing. It's like, what did the like mangaka even do in this? Like, how did he grow at all? Right? Like, it's literally his character is the plot, right? There's no characterization there. He's just like, all right, everything, all of his beats are what the plot wants him to feel at this moment. Like
Yeah,
there's no character at all.
I definitely gotta interject on something with that because the thing is that it's really sad to me how right you are about that because I really wanted this episode to just be a gigantic fucking meme because this episode is just a guy who looks like an older Japanese getcha fucking drawing furries and like that's supposed that I was ready for this to be the funniest fucking thing unintentionally and it just ended up being really basic.
I agree, but I feel like also a part of that has to do with the way that they set up the Kamen Rider formula now, as opposed to how they were able to do it a little earlier when they were more experimental with it. I've noticed that, like,
See,
the reason
my
that
problem with that is like this is the writer of X-Aid, right? So he has experience. Therefore, like I can kind of get behind a
That's not what I
basic
mean. I
episode
just mean,
if
like, I don't mean like the formula of the episode. I mean like the formula of how they're doing the series. I noticed that the reason that a ton of people will drop Kamen Riders really early on is because they'll have that just gap of
yeah, I get
just
it.
like
It
the
becomes
first
very
three episodes
episodic.
are
It's like why I
nothing.
can't stick with Sentai.
And the reason for that is because they need time to set up all of these overarching plots, and they want to focus on the overarching plot, but because they got to meet that quota, and it's not that they don't put messages out there. In fact, I think it could have worked on its simplicity, and maybe even made it even a little bit more tragic for the artist. But it's
Yeah,
pushing the right
I mean
messages. It's
that's
just that because this is
right.
an
Like
episode that
the point is
focus
this
on,
is
it's just
very
Uh,
sorry.
Interjection. Yuya,
Yeah.
the lead
So
writer
like
for the series, did not write this episode.
oh okay, that makes sense.
Thank God.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Because I'm
wanted,
like this is very basic. It's like basically at this point the show is just like okay, take five, take Kabuto, take X8, throw it together, right? But I'm like, but your villains of the week are just like fucking O's monsters, right? Instead of desire, it's just passion, right? So it's like, why not focus on it like O's does? Except this is kind of the opposite, where it's like people losing desire, so it's right, and there's no focus on it. So yeah, it was a very basic episode. Also, we have a comment. Rico Maver says, basically he says like the mangaka, he has as much character as Getcha has in real life.
that's Maverick. He's
So
just getting
take
a
it.
Getcha, you're being called out.
Oh,
With-
first topic is the call out time.
Rico in here with the fucking roasts as usual. Welcome,
Man.
Rico.
got a fat ass, so but yeah, it's well, it's just sort of it's trying to add to all like thinking back to the past episodes, it's all just like an idea of how do humans connect with technology as if it's some sort of boomer comic. As no, okay. But it's like a sushi episode. You don't learn anything about you barely learn anything about the robot's desires. You barely learn anything about the chef's desires. You could have probably like 20 episodes in, you're not going to remember that. Or the message of if a robot can digitally produce any sort of heart or soul into the work that it's being given, you know. Message more
Anna
than-
was pretty cool for like a one episode character who died.
and yeah, exactly. But but are you gonna remember like the fact that Anna was a tour guide and went to this place and blah 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 blah, 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 or are you gonna remember the message of if Yuma gears and robots can be curious and perceive and want to learn and explore things that are beyond their main coding and their main um, like
Yeah, main purpose.
moral.
Um, I get what you're getting at. The problem with this argument is the ends justify the means here, right? And I'm like, all right, maybe in a movie, short film, something. This is like a 50 episode show, right? Like this argument breaks down when it's like, okay, so you might as well just skip this arc then, right? Like that's what happens when you just go, well, as long as they're doing the overall themes, I'm like, fuck that.
I'm not
I'm
saying
wasting my
I'm not
goddamn.
saying it's good because they're doing the
No,
themes.
no, no. I know,
I'm saying that I've
but
seen this in every
like,
single Kamen Rider for the past 5 years, and at this point, I'm just like, well, you know what? First 15 episodes are just gonna be filler. Like,
Toy
I don't want to
sales.
use the word filler, but just like,
The
yeah, I
first
know, but
15
like,
episodes are going to be toy sales.
yeah, I know.
like
But if you
building up
stop,
the main, just like building up to this main theme of, oh, are robots good? Robots bad? Who knows? And that's all they're gonna be. So I'm
right.
just, I don't know.
I mean, I
But I
get that.
definitely
It's like,
am
oh,
against it.
it's like saying, right, why are you even afraid that the writer is gonna lose? It's like episode 5, right? Um, but the point is, when you're telling a story, your job is to effectively tell the damn story, which means like every episode should be good. And also, if you stop calling them out on it, they're never gonna improve. Right? I know they're not fucking sitting there listening to us,
Well,
but it's like, hey, maybe somebody in the tokusatsu fandom listens to us and they're like, hey, I can make my own tokusatsu too, right? And they're like, well, Toei fucking, gets away with like 10, 15 episodes of bullshit filler if the end is good. Therefore, I
Oh
can
no,
do that.
it
I'm
feels
like,
so
no,
called out.
no, 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 it's fine. But I meant like Toei gets away with that because they're one of the big ones, right? Like they're basically not going anywhere, which means they can pretty much do anything and they'll be fine. A new show or a new creator does not have that luxury. So therefore, like when you review a piece of medium, call out all of its flaws. So therefore, anybody watching is like, okay, yes. If I like, here's the thing: if you're starting out and you want to make a tokusatsu, and you're like, shit, I need a plan or like an episode to copy this one, because this is as basic as it gets, right?
True,
But
true. Maybe with
don't make your show, don't make 50 episodes of this though, right? Like do this as a short film, try it out.
I agree on the fact. Or sorry, I don't want to. You guys have some room to talk.
um, I just want to inject one thing into this argument. Um, I get that entire argument, but saying that Toei hasn't, isn't learning from anything, I I have one thing to say about that, and that's to you, Zero. If this is what we're
Yeah.
considering basic, as just your standard run of the mill, we have to put out an episode. They have learned from their mistakes because this is still 10, 20 times better than a basic episode of Wizard.
Dead ass though.
Like the story is simple, and the story won't interject with any of that big overarching plot bullshit mess that they're gonna do, and then they get to the end and they just say, "Fuck it, restart the series. They're in school now." but it's not gonna interject with that. What I was saying is, not only will the message stay, but as a tokusatsu fan, I think even with that simplistic story, that was simple, beat to beat to beat to beat, to be that sort of conclusion, I can still get the ideas of and relate to the ideas of a passionate creator who just lost his fire and just put it up to the machines to finish the work that he started, only to get it back at the end through being forced in outside of being forced to open his inner circle and his inspiration. And honestly, like even just looking at the guy, that's like he starts off worst nightmare. He starts off, for any creator seeing that, they'd probably see that and be like, "This is my worst nightmare, guy. I don't want to become this fucking asshole that's just abusing the system for money and doesn't give a shit." And not only does that
See,
teach them a
yeah,
lesson of what they don't want to be, but that gives them the ideas. Hey, passion,
right.
simple story, I could do
Which
anything with.
right. Which I'm saying is like, yeah, the subtext of the episode is good. The problem is you could literally do all that shit that you just said and make this a better episode with a couple of fucking lines of rewriting. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like call them out on being bullshit or basic. Let's go with that, right? Because like then you're like, all right, this is a very basic episode. Do better next time, you know? Right? Like it's
So,
not bad. I'm not saying this is bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
Um,
This is
I don't
so
think it's bad because it's basic is all I'm saying.
Pixie.
well, I was just going to point out as a new viewer to Kamen Rider, because I have not seen all the other ones that you all have seen. I was a little disappointed in this episode due to the fact that there wasn't much of an explanation onto it. It left a lot open to you just kind of connecting dots and figuring out for yourself why he lost his passion and how he suddenly got it back, seeing a new inspiration in the Common Riders. But I will say I was a little disappointed in it because up to this point, every episode has had a meaningful, this is the human gear, the person didn't want it or they did, but the human gear had a purpose, it had feelings, it had a reason. And then we get to this episode and it's just kind of lacking. There's no connection to the human gear that got turned. And there's no real emotions attached to that in watching this episode. Whereas with like the chef episode, you felt bad for that human gear because he was really trying to get that job and learn why. Or yeah, just I don't know. This episode kind of left too much to the imagination, I feel. So perhaps it was more of a rushed or low budget episode.
Yeah, I can agree with those points.
I think like the biggest issue with this is like it portrays the creator as lazy, whereas what they should have portrayed the creator is burnt out. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I saw the hero and I got inspiration again. My passion's reignited, and like it would have made perfect sense.
Hmm.
That's fair. And that was a pretty long discussion. I think it's time we move on to the next point, uh, which is that the way Choichiro is treating the Humagear, he basically, they're machines. They don't need to rest, so he just keeps them working. He literally works one to death. Should AI have human rights?
God, yeah, like that part was like, I mean, again, it's like I always say, I usually concede to the conceit that this show suggests that the AI in it are parallels to humans, they're equivalent to humans in some way. And seeing somebody who you know, empathize with as human or human like just get abused to death is like it's insane. It's sickening, you know? Like it's completely just fucked up, especially like if you've been ever like abused or mistreated in a workplace before. I mean, shit, like this one guy is like as bad to his Humagear as like Amazon is to its employees. It is just one guy. This fucking Choichiro motherfucker's a monster.
I guess to interject, I like that this show has spent of its first little bit discussing on how human the Yuma gears are. Because you get 3 different points just from the main writers alone, and then that spreads off to each individual that even claims to have an opinion on them. Of this episode kind of focused, like, I like how this episode in particular starts with them creating the Yuma Gears in their image, shipping the Yuma Gears over, practically explaining that they are going to own the Yuma Gears and that they don't have much rights overall in whatever household they're assigned to because they are AI. What makes it even more fucked up is the fact that in the past episodes we have seen them be human. We have seen them have human wants. They've said in front of us in the first episode even that they have these human emotions and human personality, and it really sort of builds for this really nice narrative of gears uh, should be treated the way they are. Exactly what would need to happen in the future for them to either get better treatment if by the end they do decide that they're more human, or to be completely eradicated if you're on Vulcan's side of just killing them all.
Right, and that's where this episode leaves you kind of lacking because it looks like the whole point of the problem is the singularity that happens when the human gear become more human. They learn more emotions, they start having their own feelings and passions. And we've seen that with every human gear up to this one, where this one just kind of random pick turned into a monster gear fight.
That's not the case. The human gear that got attacked was the one who stood up when the other one got mistreated.
He effectively was aware that the situation was wrong.
Yeah, but he didn't say anything. Like, you don't
Because
get any
he
idea.
has limitations.
He's reached singularity but hasn't progressed beyond that to having that full free form of will.
Basically, he was uncomfortable with the situation, but as a robot, it wasn't in his programming to go against his owner. He couldn't do anything about it, even though he wanted to.
Actually, that kind of reminds me. This whole episode kind of has small, subtle, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go back and decide to do this to a much, much bigger degree later in the series. But they have those small, subtle hits of the Yuma Gears going against their programming, going against like Izu canceling his order for new Yuma Gears because she found one folder that had to do with passion, which is something that she judged on her own that the mangaka didn't have at all. Of course, the how we're usually more content or less content on Yuma Gear rights and more content on just eradication of humans. They sort of focus in this episode and specifically refer to them as assistants in this sort of laughing manner that, oh, well, you're his assistant, you're my assistant now, you're just you're nothing more but a side bitch to the entire situation. Weird to have that. Obviously, like, it wasn't extremely broad and noticeable, but there were those little moments where it just sort of shined in a really weird but understandable way.
Like through all of this, all I have to say is we might as well give him rights because based on this year's, do you want to get Skynet? Because this is how you get Skynet, and apparently they've already had Skynet.
You don't want Skynet 2.
Zero. Should AI have human rights?
Watch the end of Drive, then bang your head against the wall.
What Eve no decon and bang your head against the wall?
What?
Time of Eve. It's a anime about the same kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't seen that. No, I'm just talking about fucking Drive's ending is trash. But
Well, be careful because Pixie hasn't seen it.
yeah, yeah, I know. I'm not gonna say anything else, but goddamn, it's annoying. That's why basically all
It's
the
okay,
movies try
guys,
to
if y'all
fix.
need to.
And I've already kind of spoiled something too, just already this episode for Drive.
All right.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of those weird cases. They're not fucking Reploids, which means they're not biological based, which means like why are they breaking down? They're pure machinery. Um, Secondly, like yeah, but you're treating like AI badly. Like why would you do that? Like here's the thing. Like realistically, anything that resemble okay, once you get past all right, yeah, basically once you get past the uncanny valley because the uncanny valley is like one of those annoying things that exists for a reason is because like all right, if you kind of look human, people like that. If you look like a human, people like that. If you look close enough to a human but you're off, that freaks human beings way the fuck, right? And that's what like the uncanny valley is. um so the thing is like yeah, they've dealt with that, which means like at this point like a human being should just like have general empathy for these machines that look basically like humans. So it's like why are you treating them like garbage? Like there's something wrong with you. I'm like okay, yeah, you don't care because what? Like you gotta get your fucking like manga out weekly, right? Deadlines are pretty fucking in real manga land. Like actual Japan, but it's like actual human beings have to, like eat and sleep and shit like that, right? Robots don't. Which means like there's no reason you have four robots making one chapter of one manga and like one of them falling over dead. Like there's no reason to work them this hard. Especially because of the fact that like alright, this episode did a couple of really clever things. Like really small things, but they're pretty clever. Where it's like, oh, in the like term only people with passion get Humagear, right? I'm like, well that's fucking building up to something because I guess that's just going to encourage the human gear to become more human, right? But that also means that like you're never going to just run into just like generic person with a helper because that way like they're not going to become like like monsters of the week. You need something driving them, right? To be passionate about. So I'm like, okay, that's clever. You just kind of wrote that into the terms of service and stuff. Um but again, like there's no reason if you know they were given to you because you have passion, therefore they must like learning, they must like evolving. Therefore, eventually they're gonna turn into some
They
semblance of sapiens, right?
right
There's no
right
reason to
now
treat them like garbage.
they were given to someone who paid for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
passion
I know,
thing
but
kind of doesn't come until
originally,
like later. In a way, I mean, it is part of the terms of service, but it's not really like I felt like it wasn't really being enforced at first. And also like we mistreat actual human beings, so I don't know why we even if they would be able to to create manga more efficiently than mangaka do today. I think it's entirely possible that he's just like, well, let's ramp up the production even more because other artists are using human gears, got to compete with them, and it's the hyper competitive market. So even when you can have four people making manga instantly, because because of the human potential for cruelty to other humans, we now become able to treat human gears cruelly as well.
okay,
That's
that's a
actually
yeah,
sorry.
that's a really interesting point. Here's two problems. One, this is a Toei episode, and we're trying to make this guy into like the hero to people, you know. Um, and therefore, like
Oh, but they failed. I hate
Arto's
this
like
guy.
Well, they're trying to have him redeem himself and realize he was in the
Yeah,
wrong.
exactly. So Toei cannot have that argument. Like, yeah, it makes perfect sense that like a piece of shit human being like that would exist, but I'm like, they didn't make a story about that guy, you know?
I
Right?
didn't
This is just
even
like
see the
incompetent
redemption
writing,
story. I just
where
saw it
instead
like
of in
We talked enough
sorry,
about
uh,
this about the story writing for that character.
no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's incompetent writing as opposed to like intentional characterization. It's happening. And two is the thing where you're saying like, oh, more mangaka are using robots, therefore you have to up your game. I'm like, that's not how manga works. Um, especially like Shonen Jump. It's not like, oh shit, One Piece is doing good. Fucking Naruto writer. Better step up your game. Like that's not how it works. Once you've made it, you fucking made it. All you got to do is maintain, right? Like
Uh,
there's no like writers don't compete against like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures mangaka does not compete with fucking Toriyama. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I know they're different magazines, but
right, but like
realistically,
going off of that idea, because the Humagear are being used to do the artwork because they can draw perfectly, like all the line work is perfect. Uh, like personal opinion, everyone. Like, do you prefer seeing that kind of absolute perfection in the drawings, or do you prefer imperfections? Do you that make it more human to you?
probably imperfections. That's the moral of the show. It's just yeah, I just hate really um
Yeah, like I mean, so to answer your question as basically as possible, I prefer imperfections because that's what makes it art. When you have like I'm a really big fan of the type of art movement that challenged when the idea of like Renaissance art where everything tried to be as realistic as possible and instead like went for like let's make this as like sloppy as possible. Like, let's make a Jackson Pollock. Let's draw a fucking soup can, even though nobody wants that. Fucking shit like that. And
okay,
it's like,
you're okay. All right, you just like mixed up like fucking like multiple different art things, but okay. Like
I mean,
that
I'm
went
not a
from like
fucking art
fucking
major
that
or
went from
anything.
like cubism from like Picasso to like pop art. And I'm like, all right, I get what you're getting at, like postmodernism, but I'm like, you skip like multiple movements to get there, but it's fine.
Hey, I don't got
Continue.
that book learning about that art there like you do, but
Like,
but you know,
okay, I don't know that much,
A
but
flawed
Jesus, I don't
hour-long
condense
art.
like 300 years of history into like into a soup can. But
just
She's
soup
trying to keep
can.
this as simple as possible, so we don't want to get onto a tirade about this art. Move it to this.
no,
But
fair enough, fair enough.
yeah, it's about that and but on the other hand when the Humagear draw it they draw exactly like the artist who actually contributed most of the art to this episode, who if I'm not mistaken is the same guy who designed the Q Ranger suits or at least
No,
designed
no,
Garu, and
no.
I love that art.
The guy who did the manga for this episode designed the monsters in Ryu Soldier.
Yeah, dude, I fucking love this guy's art though. Like it's amazing, and the art that they have as the example of, oh well, this is the sloppier, more imperfect art that's more endearing. I'm like, well, that actually just they both like look kind of good on their own merits. Like one doesn't look perfect compared to the other, but I actually like the art that the Human Gears drew better because I like that like really sharp, angular type of line art, especially from like the like Japanese kimono scene.
I was wondering, do you mind if I could jump back to a sort of previous point about Yuma gears in there.
Sure, go ahead.
I think a part of a lot of that, at least, if I were to look into the perspective of most of the characters in there, the thing that really differentiates them from humans is not only are they being sold as tools and they're being sold as household, outside, just like accomplices and assistants for work, to the point where when Aruto initially stops the mangaka, he says, what? They're tools, aren't they? But there's also the big emphasis on the fact that they aren't human, and if they die, you could just rebuild them with the same memories in the same place that they
Ah,
left off in, and
if
you can um, mm,
they
these
don't, they can't
yeah.
necessarily be rebuilt with the same memory.
They do that at the end of the episode when they destroy the Yuma gear. They'll put the memory into a different model.
If the
That's what
memory
they
is
did in
also
the.
destroyed, they can only make a new model that looks the same. Like go back to the chef episode. The sushi chef had to teach his new one from scratch because the new one he got didn't have the memory of the one that was destroyed.
Okay. Well,
They can reinstall the basic programming. They can't give him what that human gear learned while he was working with.
oh, okay, that makes sense. But even then, it's like probably in the perspective of a lot of these characters who I don't. This doesn't defend them, but just like in the perspective, they bought it. It is a tool of assistance. It is what they are going to get the biggest bang out of their buck for. It's what they are going to be putting them in. And this isn't necessarily on the argument of whether they deserve rights or not, but just sort of saying what perspective I saw for the fact that he can say in front of a Yuma gear, "Work her hard until she breaks," is just really weird, and is really weird and really blunt. Perspective, he probably sees the Yuma gear in the same way that he sees a crane arm, or he sees a bulldozer, he sees a pencil, you know, or a
He
stent.
he even says that like when he's complaining about getting his replacement, like even if they're AI, they won't know how to draw right away. Like he's already like aware that he'll have to teach his new ones how to draw again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to the question we had. Um, I think I would prefer the imperfections because that's what separates each artist from the next, and that's where you can connect and feel to your artist. You know, it is inspiring because look, this great artist still makes mistakes. I make mistakes, so I can be that great too, and it's okay to have imperfections. So yeah, imperfections to me in art are fine.
Like I have no problem with the imperfections, but at the same time, I have no problem with the ones that don't. Um, for me it comes down to whether or not I intend to watch something as an anime versus whether or not I'm just going to read the manga. Because if I'm reading a manga that I'm intending to watch as an anime, then I'm kind of expecting the art to match in terms of like cleanliness. Whereas if it's more sketchy in the anime or in in the manga, and it's really clean in the anime, it's drastic and it's jarring and it drives me nuts. So for me, it just comes down to my preference on whether or not I'm going to watch it or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really interesting take. I mean, pretty similar to mine, Vashi. Whereas like it depends on the art style. Like if you want to draw it like really clean, like some artists do that, some artists don't. I mean, most artists don't, but like some artists do. And it's like, yeah, they're really nice to look at. And also it depends on the style. Like if you're going for a more minimalist style, like making it really clean actually kind of adds to it. But like generally, most artists kind of add their own touches, which make the thing look a little bit imperfect, but you know, it makes it a little more livelier, so that's better. But ultimately, I think it just comes down to, hey, are you doing a thing? Do you like doing this thing? Then keep doing that thing. And as for manga, I'm like, whatever the fuck it takes to come out on goddamn time, right? Like, all right, your insanely detailed style, that's cool, but if it's like literally fucking killing you to keep drawing like this, like, I don't care, man. Just like fucking simplify it. As long as we get a story, like, don't kill yourself, Hunter x Hunter writer.
I was about to say
Um,
Hunter x Hunter.
like, yeah, I know,
Teenage
right? Like
Mutant
hiatus,
Ninja
X hiatus.
Um, Akira
Sorry.
Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, like he's a really talented artist. He did all the artwork designs for the characters in the Dragon Quest series. Super detailed, like concept art. But for Dragon Ball, he intentionally chose to be very basic and simple because he knew he was going to have to keep drawing that week to week, and so he didn't want to overwork himself. He could have gone more detailed, but he knew he wouldn't have been okay with that.
I mean, this is the genius who came up with, hey, what's my power up? Oh, wait, it's drawing less. Right? Like, what is Super saying? Less ink on a fucking page, right? So his assistants would have to do less work. Um, and that's basically the whole goddamn reason why I like Super Saiyan is just Goku with white hair instead of black hair.
Holy shit!
Um,
This is a galaxy brain moment for me.
you didn't know this?
What? You've never
Okay.
heard of that?
I probably have, but I fucking forgot.
There's also like an instance where in the original Dragon Ball one, they got really fucking tired of drawing like a statue in the background, so they have Goku like kick and destroy the statue, so they didn't have to draw the fucking statue anymore.
The creator of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, if you look at early Naruto designs, like Neji, for example, he's got his thick jacket, he's got his headband where, like, the straps lay down in front of him to look like part of his hair, half his fucking body is all bandaged up. But then jump to Naruto Shippuden, and his design is a lot more clean and smooth. Like, he's wearing just a simple robe and such. Like, at some point, Masashi decided to just do an overhaul of the character design so that they were easier to draw week to week.
You
I
know,
mean, to be
that
fair,
that
like,
makes a lot of sense, and I actually like how smooth the like Shippuden designs are. And speaking of Naruto, not that I'm about to get on a whole tangent of Naruto. In fact, it's very only loosely related, but just to justify what I meant by like I prefer the simpler art. I can speak to anime and film better than I can like fucking paintings. So the example I'm gonna fucking use is I literally would rather watch Page Productions The Ninja than Naruto any day of the week because Naruto. And no offense if you like Naruto, I do like the manga, but I don't really like the anime because the anime is just it's very competent, but it's very basic 2000s anime, and 2000s shonen anime kind of bores the crap out of me nowadays because it's like nowadays it's like I feel it was very padded out, and it just feels like I hate it when something is just. I would rather watch something that is extremely flawed, like Page Productions on YouTube of Naruto than actually watch Naruto because I prefer the imperfections in the ninja to the mediocrity of Naruto.
That's a really good point, actually. Because people, at the end of the day, if you really wanted to simplify what anybody wants, and this might come off as really, like, and maybe a little bit too oversimplified, but at the end of the day, people are looking for an entertaining experience and would rather take one in flaws that just absolutely made no sense at all than one that is boring and mediocre and uninspired and is just
Yeah,
has just
exactly. Like even though the ninja is really like flawed and really really low budget, it's like a really early like 2009 YouTube series. I find that so much more entertaining because it's more interesting to pick out the flaws and then see what they tried to make in spite of them.
People say like when people will often say when they talk about work that is like made solely from some guys like absolute burst of passion towards it. They'll say like the passion and work bled out of it, and it's a stupid phrase saying it out loud, but really, especially in examples like that, it you can see it bleeding out. I feel like any work, which is kind of what makes the character of this guy who was really passionate about this thing, and then he just started. It's just like he just started abusing the machine to get out of it because he just or didn't feel like he deserved to continue it if these guys were going to overstep him and they could just rely on them. It's sort of what pushes that out to me. Out overall, the fact that I have seen works created that look fucking terrible, but you could just tell that like everything that they love and everything that they care about came out into the work through their blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I cut out there for like a second because my phone's being weird, but yeah, I definitely got what you said, and I just couldn't agree more. Honestly, you fucking nailed it.
And that's also what makes him this character like anyone who is a constant creator, because as he starts out at the very beginning, he is uh, the worst. He's like I can't speak for everyone, but he's definitely my worst nightmare, and it doesn't help that he basically looks like an older version of me. But just this getting to the point where you try so hard to get to this position where your passion project gets put out there only to just give up on it when you just feel like anything you do at that point is just a shell compared to everything of hollowness compared to anything that the robots can do or what automation can do.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay, so you're pretty.
Sorry,
Yeah, okay.
you can say that real
That's
quick.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, like as we've talked, like, there's so much goddamn potential in this episode. This could have fucking been a movie because it's
Yeah,
got so
honestly,
much going on,
Yeah.
right?
I'd love to see it as some sort of movie. To be honest,
Fuck, we should just rewrite it at this point.
Alright.
Just do like a, I don't know, like a fucking audio drama or something. I
So-
don't know.
I'll
But the point
rewrite it.
is,
To finally
Sure,
break
yeah.
past the first 5 minutes of the episode.
well, it's like the okay.
So, Jin, turns one of the human gear into the Ma gear, with the instructions to steal a progress key from Zero-One because he wants to henshin too. When Ames shows up, Yaiba gives Fuwa his own briefcase weapon, a shotgun that when he fires it knocks him on his ass. What's worth noting is that Fuwa no longer treats Zero-One like the enemy. Would you say this is because he now knows that Zero-One is like specifically a human, or if it's because he knows who he is in general and that he kind of just trusts him to not be trying to cover it up like he initially assumed?
at the end of the day, he knows that Zero-One's going after the Yuma gear. Like, they both are essentially having the same goal to stop the Yuma gear before they can make too much destruction, and that probably has put him more at ease than what was happening before, where he thought that he was directly a part of the Yuma gear, the Yuma gear's like destruction. So I think that it has certain aspects that push him into that thought, but maybe not.
I just think it's probably more advantageous for him to work with Aruto, even if he doesn't completely agree with Aruto.
Yeah, it's definitely right now he's not 100% on his side because they still very strongly differ in their opinions of the human gear. But it's kind of enemies joining together for the common cause. He's going to work with them because he's helping him destroy the human gear that are rampaging, at least for now, until there's potential for this to go very sideways later on as the opening revealing more and more about Izu. So we'll have to wait and see what happens later. But just that was so fucking hilarious and perfect that he got knocked on his ass when firing the shotgun. I don't know how many people have experienced that.
I fired a shotgun before. The recoil was not that bad, but whew.
Yeah, I've
Well,
fired a shotgun before too, and it's. I think it's funny that they made the recoil really bad, but it's not really that bad in real life.
Like,
I think that there's machine guns that have definitely had a lot more kick on them, as well as regular rifles. As far as shotguns go, shotguns are probably in the like lower mid ranges of knockback.
like to be fair, neither one of you have fired a shotgun that was made from a briefcase.
with a progress key in it.
True, the briefcase does open to reveal an incredibly powerful shotgun.
Um, like I think it's a mixture of both, and that reluctance that he finds him fucking hilarious adds to the.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say that.
No, because it's 100% fact at this fucking point. Like that helps add to it in the aspect of I want to hate you because of the company that you work that you run, but you have been consistent in fighting the human gear and not being a lying jackass like the rest of your company. So yeah, also you made me laugh. So
Yeah, it really speaks to the value of humor.
so let's go kick its ass.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, Fu is surprisingly like he's getting like little character moments, but he's progressing a lot nicer than I thought he would because like how stubborn he started off with. Whereas now it's like yeah, like you can see he's still stuck in his ways a little bit, but like he's slowly coming around. Also, as for that shotgun, like what do you expect? You stole like Faiza's fucking briefcase. That's like that thing is like Faiza's power up form, right? Like it's gonna have some kickback.
like
I
I
think. Oh, go on.
I have one desire. Speaking of about the now two briefcase weapons. Please let this never not be a thing. I want every new weapon they introduce to somehow unfold out of a briefcase.
Unfolds out of other sort of mainstay office supplies.
Oh no, specifically briefcase. I want one of them to unfold a fucking rocket launcher out of a briefcase.
Oh,
I could see
dude, that'd
Valkyrie
be
doing
badass.
that.
That would be funny.
Yeah,
Like akin
I mean,
to
or a machine gun because then we'll just rip off Ghost in a Shell like just straight off or rip it off.
or G3.
Oh,
Like
okay.
essentially it would
Oh
be
yeah, for the machine
Right.
gun, right?
yeah.
Rico Maver says Fides did not invent briefcase guns, nerfed it. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure fucking Ghost in a Shell did, but but good point.
um,
I will say when it comes to just the main thing of uh when opening up to Naruto, when it comes solely to fighting, I will say I like even though I think it's kind of stupid that they decided to do the the secret identity thing and then just drop it after 4 episodes like it was nothing. Smoother transition than what we got last year with Geo, and what we get a lot of the years actually. Like even Xaid, I feel like the writers improved on certain aspects with pacing, and also hasn't in certain aspects. But even compared to Xaid, where it just feels like there are certain moments where they're just fighting for the fact that they are both, or fighting together for the fact that they are both Kamen Riders, and even though they hate the fuck out of each other and want to kill each other.
Snipe hero.
Who cares? I mean, we could just guys, we need to fight the monster. I mean, what do we do?
But he
Like,
did fire it right at zero. So again, we have that very close near miss.
like for me, it's like I just to backtrack just a hair before I jump forward, continue with this. I do like the fact that the man with the most badass henshin got knocked on his ass by a shotgun. I think that's hilarious. Because they literally went, "Hey, you're a badass." Haha. No, you're not.
I died laughing at that point. I'm not gonna lie.
Um, but in terms of like the whole secret identity thing, I'm a little bit torn because this show showed that the whole hiding the secret identity thing could have led to some very funny moments, like Zero hiding the belt behind his back. But at the same time, Kamen Rider and secret identities tend to be very, very bad. More specifically, Fies, because the identity it was secret identity, and it would have been fine because the issue with secret identities in that show is nobody fucking talks to each other. Here we have the
I mean,
characters.
to be
About
fair,
five. It's like this complete lack disassociation and just not to put the point away from 01 episode 5, but just in general about fives is that it's all about that miscommunication and the fact that no one even wants to improve because they're all just a bunch of who feel like they
well,
don't deserve each other's time.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's kind of the best thing about fives, though. It's like it's very like if you gave like regular people. Okay, that's not true. Like if you gave kind of damaged people and made them your heroes, and it's like go save the world, you barely held together walking mess. Um,
That's
and
also
then like
why-
that's fucking great. But it's like, yeah, they suck ass at communicating. Also, like half of them murdered the other half, so like, or
all
somebody
falling in
else.
love with each other, and there's just
So
like 50 fucking love triangles that just become like a fucking come together to become like a love fucking star, and
that's
then
not
turn
really
around
true. I mean, like,
love.
there's literally like one love triangle, and it's like,
and it's with themselves.
yeah.
I just
Actually,
got what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh.
There's love triangle.
But with five,
Five love triangle. Actually, that's not
Okay.
true.
seriously, it's hilarious to think that this guy broke up with his pen pal because he fell in love with the girl that he didn't know was his pen pal. He broke
Okay.
up with the same girl that he
Okay.
fell in love with.
Okay, that's not the one I was talking about. See, that's kind of just
Using that
miscommunication.
to throw off
I
again.
I was talking about the like how everybody is fucking in love with Mari. And then
In
like,
fairness, one of them is a lunatic.
okay, you know what? Fuck it. I've got shit to say about Kaiza, but like Platinum knows it, and I'm not
He's
gonna
a
tell you
piece of
guys.
shit.
Guy's just a piece of shit,
He's-
but that's why I like him so much.
He's questionable,
You-
but like,
It's okay to like a character for their flaws. I think just knowing what Zero's talking about.
Okay. We're not getting into like a
Oh,
Fies
we-
podcast
yeah.
here, okay?
yeah.
Let's reel it this in, all right?
Yeah.
So Choichiro's human gear all get destroyed, and the one Ma gear gets away. And he wants replacements right away. Arto suggests that he draw himself in the meantime, but he refuses to do it. Regardless of his lack of motivation or whatever, how much reliance on technology is okay?
I think. Oh,
that's
sorry.
I apologize. Go ahead.
You,
Like that's a dangerous question to ask nowadays.
well, I mean, what I think is that I think it's okay to use technology to help yourself, unless you're a fucking artist. So it's really crazy how they picked an artist here, because I think that's what really makes the question actually interesting. But I mean, we've discussed that to death. But yeah, I just think that Bottom line is that if you need like technology to help you do tasks that don't need a personal touch, that's fine. But if you're an artist or something where it's supposed to come from your own creativity, like no, fucking do it goddamn self.
I assume you're referring to just having a machine do the work for you, as opposed to something like a drawing tablet.
Oh well, yeah, of course. Like, I think that if you use technology that allows you to be more creative, then that's completely different, and that should be okay. In fact, we wouldn't be even fucking having Kamen Rider in the capacity that we do today if we didn't rely on some technology.
I was going to play like the boomer card and be like, we should have no reliance on technology. With truthfully,
I'm like, yeah, go live our as a hunter gatherer
Shut the fuck
society.
up, boomer.
No, okay, but this is what I mean. As a person who's on my computer, like a good majority of the day, so that is relying on technology to do certain work for you, and to more specifically to equate it to more modern day stuff, make you a happier person and make you a more well-rounded person, is something that it's like a pool without a lifeguard. It needs to be taken with uh, risk in mind, because on technology to be the basis of your life and the basis of your workflow and the basis of how you do things and the basis of how you express yourself creatively, is only limiting yourself to the massive amount of potential you have in yourself, which is what I think also is really well in this episode for the most part. Technology should be not really, but using technology for the advantage that you rely on yourself and you rely on the others around you and you rely on the world around you, and you use technology in order to enhance that or to help you push yourself forward with it, then definitely.
Yeah, so I love how everybody's like, "Oh yes, pure art and creativity," and I'm the one asshole who's like, "Yeah, yeah, that's great." Also the whole like, "Oh, imperfections are great." I'm like, "Yeah, this is all fucking great, except when you get to 3D and it's all like, did you follow the plan, asshole? Did you use the tools? Is it as accurate as humanly possible? Yes.
Well, I like
Good."
that though, because
No,
we get to be devil's advocate to each other. It makes the
no, no,
debate.
no. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like I love how everybody's on like 2D shit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm actually like one of the few people who's done the 3D stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, this is literally like all the fucking time people like harp on about like, oh no, 3D isn't real art or any of that shit, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Um, Also like as someone with like fuck all for talent, who wants to do a lot of shit, I'm like all the technology all the time. Fuck off. I don't care.
Well,
Like
I think in that
if
case,
it
it's
if
enabling
it
you to be
gets me
more
what I
creative.
need to get done, I don't give a shit. As for like reliance, I'm like, who cares? It exists. Like tech exists for a reason. Also, like the problem is like me and Platinum are into in like IT kind of. So it's like we're always gonna be pro tech anyway. But the thing is like tech exists for a fucking reason, which is to make your goddamn lives easier. It's like just because you use it wrong or you rely on it too much to make yourself do stupid shit because you're lazy, that's your own fault kind of at that point. Like blaming the solution to a problem because you are too lazy is not the problem of the solution. It's your own fault at that point. As for like, are we too reliant? I'm like, no, because like, it's sort of the oh fuck. You know how there's like Moore's law, which is like, oh, computer chips double every like 2 years or 18 months or whatever, and like it's not really a law, but it's kind of just a general understanding. But there's another one for rendering thing, which is like rendering power doubles because tech gets stronger, but render times don't go down because you want to just do more stuff with the power you have. So the thing is like the tech doesn't make a difference whether you have a lot of tech or if you have no tech. Ultimately, it's whatever the fuck you want to do with it. And like, yeah, sometimes it's like, well, that's like 10 times easier because you have some fancy software than what it used to be back in the day. But I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, good for you. You had the talent. I don't. I still want to make this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I more or less get what you're saying there. It's like as long as you don't get addicted to it, basically, that's my only problem.
So, as we see, Izu becomes curious about human emotion in this episode. And I don't remember who, but one of you brought up a good point about how she defies her programming and orders to explore this curiosity. This is very much a sign of singularity, and so it's clear that at some point she'll become a target to become a Magyar. Will Aruto blame himself for that since he's the influence that is pushing her in this human direction?
Only if it happens on Christmas.
Oh shit! Better fucking sell Kid the murder weapon.
I think that's the only answer we need. Anyway, going to the next one.
Okay. So introducing to the final battle, like Arto goes to Henshin inside Choichiro's office, and like the giant mantis breaks through the ceiling, the giant eagle like breaks through the wall. Like, how much property damage is Arto going to cause?
Right? I mean, like, I wish Toei had, like, Toei's budget's increased, but, like, they don't have the budget to be consistent, right? Because, like, right, one shot, like, they're breaking through the walls and ceiling and shit, and, like, later on it's all fixed, so I'm like, alright. It's just for dramatic effect, but God, I wish they would, like, keep being consistent, and it'd be like, oh no, like, a third of this fucking house is smashed up. I mean, I know he's, like, super rich, so he could probably pay for it, but
They fixed the mansion faster than they could deliver the Yuma gears.
Yeah, like I just can't believe that it crashed through the fucking ceiling. Like I was on the floor
Like-
laughing because the amount of fucking collateral damage that we've been like it's like, oh, it's outside. That's kind of one thing. We're used to the outside getting damaged. Just like, no, fuck this guy's mansion. That fucking pushed it over the edge for me, and I just lost my goddamn shit.
And
Well, Hiden's, security detail and all of that, and their human relations, they're really good, really quick at getting things fixed. I will firmly stand behind the fact that that got fixed when the camera angle changed by Hiden.
oh wow, shit, they're even better than Iron Man. Um,
Because at this point, they kind of have to be quick because Zero-One fucks up a bunch of shit.
I mean, to be fair, they have magic tech that rains armor from the sky. I'm pretty sure they can beam in a fucking wall if they had to.
Right. Like he's fucked up floors. He fucked up the side of a building.
those were all
He fucked up-
windows.
He fucked up a parking garage. He fucked up the inside of Hiden Industries.
He like drove his motorcycle across dozens of windows.
He's like the
That's
most
fine,
reckless
that's-
Kamen Rider I can think of off the top of my head.
Also,
No,
all
I
those
was gonna
shipping
say it's like,
containers-
well, windows don't count. The riders fucking ride their motorcycles on windows all the time.
So
He has a construction team that follows him to every location he goes to.
well,
That would have been so clever, though.
remember what I said in an earlier podcast where, like, he just has the one businessman that follows him around, like, I'm his insurance agent, I'll cover the damages. And he just,
Like,
like, pulls out a checkbook.
I'm
Oh,
trying.
dude, that'd be so
Exactly.
great.
He lost my shit when you see he pulls out the checkbook.
Fuck. What?
So
Oh,
That's
oh,
what Co-
you know what that'd be like? It'd be like in Kabuto, Sword's butler, where the Sword runs around doing random shit, and his butler's like, "Oh, it's fine, I'll cover it. Just let him do his thing." and he's there like explaining everything and like fixing all the shit. Ah, it's great.
Uh, so we get the debut of Flaming Tiger, explosive power of 100 bombs. Uh, Pretty cool form. He literally like protrudes fire from his hands, and he makes another pun. Vashi.
And then sets his face on fire.
Uh, and Fua.
Thinks it's fucking hilarious.
Fua has like a Fua has not only a bad sense of humor, but kind of one at Aruto's expense.
But it works because Wood thinks that he's joking, and he's not. He's legit like, it's hot, hot, hot. Oh gosh, my face is on fire now. Ah, my other hand's on fire. What do I do?
Yeah, that's
And
great.
like Fua gets the closest he has to actually laughing. Like, I'm calling it now. Christmas special. Fua's actually going to laugh at one of Aruto's jokes.
Like openly and visibly to where Aruto will see it.
Was this the part where he laughed and he was in suit, like Fua
Yeah,
was in
yes,
suit?
He was
Yeah.
in suit and he's like shaking a bit because he's trying to not laugh because he's just like, that's one hell of a joke.
I love subtle suit acting like that.
Yeah, definitely. Fuck, the suit actors have been doing fucking amazing this year. That's what I'm happy about.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
Like, I feel like with the main writer changing out, not to completely dismiss Seiji Takaiwa's work or anything like that, but there was definitely telling that, like, in the later halves especially, a lot of his mobility was kind of but being kind of lowered a little bit overall. And then this guy comes in just like agile as fuck, doing all these fucking flips and shit. And oh my god, the camera work as well with this fucking episode. Just like so many. Wait, I can't remember if it was this episode or last episode. Where they're on the motorcycles and it goes. It's probably last episode, but it goes under the fucking Yumagear's arm, and then they. What they're doing is the cameraman who's on another fucking platform in a car across all of it is putting the camera through his arm, handing it to another cameraman who's then pulling it out and then pulling it back in for another slash.
Holy shit, that you're right, that's gotta be how they did that. Like, I didn't even think about how they did it, but that's kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm. A lot of shit has improved. A lot of stuff that's more technical and more like behind. Like, there's definitely been a huge production change years, and that's honestly surprising. From like Forza, where 99% of that took place in like the same 3 hallways and one giant room set in a high school. And here they're going to like all these different fucking locations and doing all these different fucking giant stunts in different areas and being able to set up their own rubble and being able to set up their own fire. And obviously the CGI is not improved that much, but
I think it's mostly because, yeah, like the behind the scenes stuff. It seems like they're. I mean, to be fair, it's early on in the season, so they have a little more budget and it's always a little more experimental. Hopefully, it keeps. That being said, I think it's also because they finally gotten like a decent like CGI production pipeline going. So they probably have like 20 years worth of fucking effects to pull out. I mean, for God's sakes, like his bike is literally just the build bike. Hey, I'm nothing wrong with the phone to bike thing. I also hope that continues. Like, fuck, if they need a reason to keep a bike in the show, like, I'm fine with just fucking reskinning the build bike. If we get for a way to keep bikes in the show, in a rider show.
mm-hmm.
And then like also like the new form fucking looks great. Um, does he have Oz's finisher though?
Wait.
I
Do you
was like
mean
the
that the new form looks
Uh,
great?
he
oh freaking
he
nice
jumps
job,
through a
Sean.
ring of fire like a fucking circus tiger.
Okay, I didn't catch that, but goddamn, that makes sense. Also, probably on the FBI's most wanted list now. Power of 100 bombs? Like, come on, man. You can't say shit like that.
You also can't
Um,
put a fucking shotgun in an attache case. You think that fucking even taking the DX toy through fucking
hey man,
TSA is gonna go well?
Yeah, I was gonna say, God knows what's gonna happen if he transforms in an airport.
well, good thing it's not his gun. He'll be fine. Um, it's
Yeah, he has the briefcase
because
sword for
it's
that very reason.
right. I mean, it's Fua's freaking shotgun, so he's a cop. He'll be fine. Also, Arto's rich, so rules don't apply to rich people, as we know.
Screw the
Um,
rules, I have money.
dude, he has his. He probably has
It's
his own
required
private
for
jet. Why would
business.
he even need to go to an airport?
Wait, is Aruto rich yet? I mean, if
We
he's
don't
only been there for
know,
like a
but
week or so.
he
Dude,
He's
he's still
probably
he
not
has
even gotten his paycheck yet.
Aruto has the company limo. He's effectively rich.
So why does he need a
Right.
rider machine?
He could probably borrow a goddamn company
He
jet
comes
if he
as a
needed
rider?
to.
Uh, so Chirobi sees the rider fight and gets his passion back again or whatever. Uh,
Or whatever.
so Hirobi scolds Jin for disobeying orders, and Jin asks him, like, what am I to you, your assistant? Hirobi says, no, you're much more important to me than that. You're my son. Now, Hirobi wears some kind of bandana that covers his ears, and Jin always has his hood up. Because we can't see their ears, we can't see the identification that would mark them as Humagear. So, my final question is Hirobi and Jin, human or Humagear? My personal theory is that they are both Humagear. I would say Hirobi is the Humagear that led the rebellion at Daybreak Town 12 years ago, the one that we see in the video message that was left behind. Jane, to me, is probably a Humagear that wasn't infected, that survived the explosion. Jin or Hirobi picks him up and reprograms him.
That's a good one. Can I do you mind if I put in my own sort of
Yeah, go ahead.
small
This is
theory on
definitely, I
that?
want to hear all the different thoughts on what their deal is.
Cool. I I think that's a good. You make a bunch of good points there, but I also feel like it might be, or maybe it's that Jen is a Yuma Gear, and his name I'm
Hirobi.
sorry, Hirobi, yeah, and Hirobi is human, and the main reason I say that is I'm thinking back to the very, very first episode, the infamous, oh, Kamen Rider is so dark, guys, that one shot where the Yuma Gear goes after him and he has to shoot him. Yuma Gear go after another Yuma Gear if their one primary objective is to go after humans. Um, Probably something that goes further beyond just that Hirobi looks like a human, but
Jin
isn't a.
is the one with the hood.
Oh my god, I'm dumb. I'm sorry, Jen.
Sorry.
I completely forgot how. I don't even know how I messed that up.
It's fine.
Um,
New characters,
sorry.
new show.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get used to it.
Only. Yeah. Same thing applies. Just Jen. So I think that as well. I've noticed this. The writer, uh, X8, he loves parallelism, and if you aren't about, if people aren't about to uh playing X8 season 2, if he does do what I'm saying, they're probably going to be yelling it more and more to the point where it's even more and more annoying. But I feel like in the same way that Aruto's father, their quotes, was a Yuma Gear, or whatever that was meant to represent was a Yuma gear. This uh Hirobi as well is a Yuma gear, and he's just treating Jin, this random kid that he built up to be this psychopath, as his son. Because Hirobi's the one that knows the most about the Yuma gears and the progress keys and uh, uh, where to go specifically to in order to change their programming, while Jin is the one that's actually going out there and basically being like, "Oh, yeah, screw whatever you were doing before. You're supposed to eliminate humans."
Now, this doesn't disprove your theory because there's a lot of
Yeah.
evidence to suggest that Jin is a human. However, the Magir attacking him, uh, Humagir use facial recognition technology. So, with Jin having his ears covered, he does look like a human.
Hmm. Yeah, you make a point there. Um, there is a chance at there of them doing something with parallelism. Uh, just because I've seen this person do it a ton. His own series, especially X-Aid's a good example of that. Not that he will. If he doesn't, then I'm not going to be like, ah, man, this show sucks. But that's my own sort of thought on it. When he says that he's his son, I feel like they're treating this as too big of a reveal for him to literally just be his biological son or his robot son that he treats as a son.
So I think.
Sorry.
Can I get mine out
yeah,
because I gotta go in a second. Yeah, I gotta wrap this up right here. But I think that it's gonna maybe be like a different type of parallelism than what I think that Getch is saying, where basically I think that in the same way that Aruto seems to sort of potentially be foreshadowed to be at least part human gear somehow, I think Jin is also going to be some delineation of that. I think he's going to be similar to Aruto. So I don't think he's going to be like literally his biological son, except kind of, but only like halfway. And I think that this is going to cause Jin to have like some issues about whether or not he actually still wants to go through with this extinction progress, because he's going to be like, oh, but I'm a human, but I'm a human gear, but I'm a human, but I'm a human gear.
That is actually a pretty cool idea. In a second.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I hadn't considered all this. I guess I read it like I just recently watched it like right before the podcast. I hadn't thought of all this, but like these are really interesting takes because it goes from like, oh, right, so they're like Peridot and Dragon Age.
And Emu, like, yeah, I think that that's honestly like intentionally supposed
not
to be
Emu,
that.
the other Bugster.
Graphite?
Yes.
Yeah, Graphite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like
Okay,
so
yeah.
Rise
I
is
don't
like
wanna- I don't wanna-
Peridot and Graphite, and then the other one is like, okay, so the dad's a robot because parallelism. That's kind of interesting, and then Jin is human. See, I hadn't thought of that. And then like Platinum, yours is they're both human, but like, oh no, they're like it's a hybrid.
I think that I could go either way with Hirobi being human. I do think that with the ears being covered up, that maybe he's like the person who seems to be Aruto's dad, because Aruto's dad seems to be a human gear, but also like human at the same time. So I think it's gonna be kind of like that. But anyways, I'm Gokai Platinum, and I gotta go pick somebody up. So it's been
Thanks
good
for
chatting
joining
with
us
y'all.
tonight. Have a good night.
As well, I'm get ya, and I gotta go to sleep and waste another day at school like a piece of rotten flesh. Do I DM you the recording?
We'll let you know if we even need it.
Just
That's
save
good.
it for now.
Well, thank you for letting me on.
Thank you
Yep.
for
This has been a
coming.
fun talk. Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you, and thank y'all for having me on as always. And get you go to sleep for fucking you fucking Zoomer. You've got high
Shut
school.
up! You're not my mom. You're not my dad. You're not my mom's dad. That's for fucking certain.
Not your daddy, I'm your grandpa. Anyways, peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.
Uh,
So,
nice.
Pixie, Vashi, do you two have any thoughts on whether Hirobi and Jin are human or Humagear?
You want to go first?
You can.
I think you. I think Jin is definitely human by the fact of how many emotions he's had. We've seen him laughing, we've seen him contemplating and thinking, we've seen him actually kind of shocked and sad at moments. So I think he's definitely human, perhaps unstable, but
Perhaps.
definitely a human. Definitely unstable. But I think Hirobi is most likely an advanced human gear, perhaps a prototype for the next version of human gear, which is why he's so much more calm and collected. He's telling Jim what to go do, who to go collect, because I want to say he probably can scan through all the human gear that are out there, and he knows which ones are going to be the best to help him accomplish the extinction of humanity.
So like for me, as along I want to say it was Getch's idea. Um, I believe that Hirobi is a human gear, but not the normal kind of human gear that we have learned are despicable and or lovable. I want to say he's in a similar boat to Krim, to where he was human. Shit went south, so he stuck himself in a artificial body. Found his, which would explain why he's not aged, and then um, his son he found, raised, and all that. So I think Jin's human, which again would explain why they both look about the same age.
I
But yeah, I have a firm believing that it's going to be some Krim-esque explanation.
Yeah, that's super interesting because like this is not like there's two characters and we've got like multiple different theories. Like literally everybody has their own play. That's super cool. Mine was actually much more simpler. It's just like, okay, so Hirobi's human and Jin's a robot. So I'm like, he literally just built him to be like his next generation thing because okay, if Hirobi is a robot, then Jin is the next generation robot who's not limited by programming. Or Jin's a human, and he either knows what the hell happened with the explosion and stuff back in the day, or he was just a random human who survived that and decided that like, yeah, humanity is fucked up. We should just get rid of them. Or he wasn't even there at that time. He just had this fucked up idea, and then he either found this robot, created Jin, or just made him all by himself for his plan of whatever. So like, yeah, in mine, basically Jin's always kind of a robot. And everybody's like, "Oh no, Jin's a human." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I get that he has more emotion, but like, huh. It's
Yeah,
interesting that we all have like different takes on that."
I do acknowledge that Jin has enough emotions that it makes more sense for him to be a human. I just like the idea that, like, what if that's what makes him unique? Like, that he is a human gear with emotion.
Yeah, see, that's
Like I mean,
pretty much as close as I get to the human thing for Jin, too. Go ahead, Vash.
and that's a very very good thing. Is like it just comes down to how advanced is the AI in this particular case. Um, and it like if that would also explain how they're finding the ones that are reaching singularities because it's something that they themselves have gone through, so they for lack of a better term they can pick up on that frequency.
There's also like no one ever said that the human gear couldn't be programmed with this kind of emotion in them. Uh, it just seems to be that they are not. It could be that like they originally were, something went wrong, possibly Daybreak, and so this current era of human gear do not have that level of emotion. Jin could be like a previous model left over.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Also, Toei, stop fucking stealing English words and phrases. Pretty soon we're not gonna have like anything left because it's like, all right, daybreak. What? You mean that time that like Atlantis exploded? Begins night. You mean that time that fucking what's that from Devil, right? What was that?
Maybe.
Yeah, whatever. Right? Like at this point, there's literally like every mundane fucking English phrase has some like evil fucking Kamen Rider plan attached to it.
Yeah, it's double.
Right.
To defend that for them, you know, Japan is very xenophobic.
Yeah. Plus, they think English sounds cool, just like we think Japanese. Cool.
They love English.
And apparently Spanish sounds, you know, evil.
Really,
Yeah,
I would have
that-
guessed
well,
French.
that was a Bleach reference.
Oh.
Taite Kubo named all of the like the villains and like Wekumundo
Yeah.
and the Rancars. That because it sounds more terrifying in Spanish.
Right. So, here's what I was thinking. I'm like, maybe it's like Portuguese. Because I'm like, it's Japan and like, actually, it's like South Asia has a weird relationship with Portugal because like they still had their empire, and South America and like South Asia actually has a lot of influence from them. Um, right. So like that's why like they have like certain words still left over from like the Portuguese introduction. Like bride is just the Portuguese word for it. Like every other freaking language or nationality kind of gets just basically their English version, but just set in Japanese. Except for like England and English, because the Portuguese had different words. So it's weird. Like Japan has a lot of weird like language history stuff going on. Oh, they have like a really weird thing with German too, but that's mostly because of like when they were trying to like modernize during the 1920s and shit, which kind of led to why they allied with Germany. Anyway, this is like Meiji Restoration stuff. Um, yeah, like Japanese history is interesting.
The one final note on the theories.
Hmm.
Who wants to take a bet? And keep in mind that I had people thinking I was getting scripts.
This.
What?
Okay, go.
With
From like the last time.
Pride comes
From-
before a
from-
great fall.
oh, I know. When we were doing the X8 podcast, every single one of the theories that I put out, aside from I think one, came true to the level at which I said it, to the point where King thought little King thought I was actually getting scripts.
I do remember
Yeah,
you
I was-
saying I was right a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90%
To be
of
fair-
90% of that one.
Yeah. To be fair, Rai got like a lot of fucking Zio shit. From like
Zio was
nothing.
really predictable, okay? Don't Don't make that sound like an accomplishment.
I'm pretty sure after watching Drive, if I were to pop in Zio for Pixie, she'd be able to make the same prediction.
Like, the problem with Zio is that the stuff that I wanted to be correct was wrong.
Was wrong. I know, right? All the good. So sad. Man, we had so many good theories about Zio. They were so much better than the actual show.
I think what made my predictions a lot easier to be right when we were doing the XA podcast was the fact that I was binge watching the crap out of Rider.
So you're seeing a lot more tropes.
Right.
Yeah,
so I was
more
picking up
patterns.
on every single trope that was happening and seeing them play out. So it was one I was like, haha, well, I see this coming. Did not see the Christmas death coming. That was a fucking shock.
Yeah, that's because you haven't seen Kabuto, and that's why me and Rai are just calling all the fucking Zero-One shit because it's basically Kabuto all over again.
On that, I think we should call it. We're almost at 2 hours.
All right.
Yeah. What? No bets?
I mean, if you want to take a bet, I don't know what I have to,
I know, right? I'm like,
Okay.
what are we betting on? Like,
okay, here's the bet, alright? Me and Zero are saying that Jin is a Humagear. The two of you are saying that he is a human. That's the bet.
Sure, let's go with that.
I can accept that. What are the conditions?
I don't know.
I don't know.
See, that's where the problem lies. Wait, I know what it is.
Okay.
Balls exposed on stream.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. No
This is
Power
not going to be our
Rangers.
catchphrase.
No Power Rangers tomorrow because season 1 is ended. We'll be back on Tuesday for Real Soldier. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here on Tuesday for more Kishiru Sentai Real Soldier. Took me long enough. I finally screwed that up. And next week for Kamen Rider Zero-One. Thank you all for listening.